Let me ask you something honest. When was the last time you sat through a full movie without touching your phone? When was the last time you waited in a line or sat in silence without immediately reaching into your pocket? If you're struggling to remember, that's not a coincidence. That's a symptom. And I know what you tell yourself. You tell yourself you'll be productive tomorrow. You tell yourself you're just relaxing, just decompressing, just taking a break. But then somehow it's 1 a.m. and you've watched 400 videos and you couldn't summarize a single one of them. You wake up the next morning feeling more drained than when you went to sleep. Your motivation is on the floor, your attention span is basically non-existent, and you blame yourself for it. Stop blaming yourself, because this isn't about willpower, this isn't about discipline. What's happening to you is a lot more calculated than that. They're entire teams of engineers, psychologists, and data scientists whose only job is to make sure you cannot stop scrolling. These aren't junior developers throwing stuff at a wall. These are some of the highest paid people in the world, sitting in climate-controlled offices in California, running tests to figure out exactly how to hold your attention for one more second, then another second, then another. And they are extraordinarily good at their jobs. The average person now spends between 4 and 7 hours a day on their phone. A decade ago, that number was close to 0. This didn't happen by accident. To understand why this is so hard to resist, you have to understand what's actually going on inside your head when you open TikTok. Your brain has a chemical called dopamine. Most people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical, but that's not quite right. Dopamine is more accurately the wanting chemical. It doesn't make you feel good when you get something, it makes you desperately want to keep chasing something. It's the feeling that makes you swipe one more time. It's the feeling that makes you think the next video might be the one that finally satisfies you. And it never does. That's the whole point. For most of human history, dopamine was triggered by things that took real effort. You hunted, you built, you created, you struggled, and then you got the reward. The effort and the payoff were connected. That connection is what built civilization. That connection is what made people write books, start businesses, train for years to master a craft. Short-form content completely severs that connection. You do nothing. You move your thumb, and your brain gets a hit. Over and over and over. Hundreds of times an hour. Thousands of times a day. And here's what nobody talks about. When you flood your brain with that much cheap stimulation, it adapts. It has to. Your brain is constantly trying to maintain balance, so when you bombard it with easy dopamine all day, it reduces its own sensitivity to compensate. It turns the dial down, which means that over time, ordinary life starts to feel genuinely unbearable. Not metaphorically, literally unbearable. Sitting down to read a book feels like trying to run through concrete. Starting a work task feels like lifting something impossibly heavy. Your brain has been recalibrated to expect constant fireworks, and reality just can't compete. And TikTok isn't just accidentally stimulating. The entire machine is engineered around a concept from behavioral psychology that dates back to the 1950s. A researcher named B.F. Skinner discovered something disturbing when he was studying how animals learn. He found that if you give a rat a reward every single time it presses a lever, it'll press the lever a reasonable amount. But if you make the reward unpredictable, sometimes nothing happens, sometimes a small reward, sometimes a huge one, the rat becomes obsessed. It can't stop pressing. It will press the lever thousands of times. It will ignore food. It will ignore sleep. The unpredictability doesn't reduce the desire, it multiplies it. This is called a variable reward schedule, and it is the foundational principle behind every major social media platform. You don't know if the next video is going to be boring or hilarious or shocking or exactly what you needed to hear, so you keep going. You cannot help yourself. The mechanism is that powerful. These platforms didn't stumble onto this by accident. They built it this way on purpose, and they have the internal research to prove they knew exactly what they were doing.
The infinite scroll feature, the thing that lets you keep swiping forever without any natural stopping point, was invented by a designer named Ozzy Raskin. He later came out publicly and said he wished he'd never built it. He estimated it was responsible for around 200,000 additional hours of scrolling every single day. He called it a design mistake with massive consequences for human attention and mental health. The man who built the trap is telling you it's a trap. And the notification system is not random either. The red dot, the badge, the little number sitting on the app icon. Red is not a coincidence. Red is the color that triggers the fastest, most instinctive response in the human brain. It's hardwired into us from thousands of years of evolution. Red means pay attention. Red means something is happening. They picked that color because it works. Every design decision in these apps, every color, every sound, every piece of the interface has been tested on hundreds of millions of people and optimized for one outcome: maximum time on screen. And while your time and attention are being harvested and sold to advertisers, the people running these companies are living very differently. A number of prominent tech executives, including people who have worked directly on these platforms, have publicly said they either limit their children's access to social media or don't allow it at all. Think about what that actually means. The people who built these products, who profit from them, who understand exactly how they work, don't let them into their own homes. That should make you furious. So what do you actually do about it? First, let's be clear about one thing. You are not going to fix this by being more mindful or setting a screen time limit that you'll override in 30 seconds. The problem is not a lack of awareness. You already know this is a problem. That's why you're watching this. The problem is that the pull of these apps is stronger than casual intention. You need to make structural changes, not just mental ones. The first move is the hardest, and there's no softer way to say it. Delete the apps. Not all social media necessarily, but the infinite scroll platforms, TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, anything built on that endless feed model. Delete them from your phone today. Not as a permanent vow you might break, just delete them now and see what happens. You can always re-download them, but make the friction real. The first few days are going to feel genuinely awful. Your hands will reach for your phone and find nothing to grab onto. You'll feel a kind of restlessness that's hard to describe, this itchy, uncomfortable, borderline anxious feeling. That feeling is withdrawal. It's real. It's your brain throwing a tantrum because it's been cut off from something it was getting hundreds of times a day. Let it tantrum. Don't negotiate with it. The discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is healing. Boredom is going to show up heavy in those first few days. And here's what I want you to understand about boredom. It is not the enemy. Boredom is the beginning of every good idea anyone has ever had. When your brain is not being constantly fed, it starts to generate, it starts to wander, to connect things, to create. The daydreaming and restlessness you'll feel is your mind trying to remember what it used to do before it got outsourced to an algorithm. But you can't just remove something without replacing it. If you delete the apps and sit in a quiet room staring at the ceiling, you will re-download them within 48 hours. You need to redirect that energy somewhere with real resistance. Go to the gym and actually push yourself. Take walks without your phone, not gentle strolls, real walks where you're alone with your thoughts. Start reading, even if it's just 10 pages a night. It will feel slow at first. Your eyes will want to skim. Force them not to. That discomfort is your attention span being rebuilt, like a muscle that's been unused for years. Cook a meal from scratch. Work on something with your hands. Call someone you haven't talked to in a while and have an actual conversation. These things feel small, but they are doing something significant. They are giving your brain a reason to engage with reality again. The first week is the hardest. By the second week, something starts to shift. The fog gets a little lighter. Sitting with a task becomes a little less painful. By the end of the first month, people who've done this consistently describe feeling like they've woken up from something, like they got time back, like they can think again. You built these habits over years. You won't undo them in a weekend, but every day you choose the harder thing over the easier hit is a day your brain gets a little closer to being yours again. This is the actual situation. The apps are designed by brilliant people with unlimited resources to keep you exactly where you are, distracted, passive, and scrolling. The only move that works is deciding that your attention is worth more than what they're paying for it. It is. You just have to act like it.